You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's The Walking Dead After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Walking Dead After Show.
Hey guys, what is happening? We're doing The Walking Dead AFTERBUZZ After Show because Bing is for doing, and that is what we're doing, the Zombie March, the Walker Walk. And guys, joining me tonight, the ever so lovely in red, Christon Carole.
Hey guys.
And the even lovelier because it's a lighter shade of red, Derrial Kristin.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And guys, I'm Dave Klein. Sadly, Nando Velasquez couldn't make it with us tonight, but that's okay because Melissa McBride will be calling in very soon. And also joining us, Stephen Lemieux.
Your mic's
I'm
not
muted.
on,
I'm not
Steven.
important enough, guys.
Mic check.
Hey guys,
He's very
how's it
important.
going?
He's very important, as Steven.
Very, very important. So, guys, this was a huge episode, and I just want to throw out right now, I called this like 3 weeks ago.
You did.
A few times. I wish we had like a recap of all of
We
this.
just need
in
to
a
have
row.
it cut
a
together.
montage.
And that's something you can't call from the comics because Merle's not in it, so this was a true dead-on prediction. What now?
I'm honestly like on an emotional roller coaster right now because of that episode. Like I'm actually sad and happy and sad at the same time.
I was spoilered beforehand, so I was prepared for it. I wish I wasn't, because I feel like when Daryl cried, I think I would have teared up as well.
Yeah.
That would have been heartbreaking.
I was spoiled by Daryl telling Kristin, talking to Kristin about it.
I know,
He was
I know.
spoiled as well.
I know, I was spoiled as well, but it's okay.
So guys, we're gonna go ahead and start out and talk about the episode, and when Melissa McBride calls in, who plays Carole, we're gonna start, I think we're probably gonna do the interview first with her and then keep on going with the episode, because we're not sure how long she can stay on. So we'll go ahead and get into the intro. So we start with Rick, Daryl, and Herschel are all together, and at this moment in time, Rick is set on thinking that he needs to kill, or at least take, not to kill, but presumably take Michonne
to her
the
death.
governor. But we actually have Melissa McBride on with us right now.
You're on the line.
Hi, Melissa.
Hey, how
Hey,
are
Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing great. We're so glad you can join us tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
No, very
You're in
excited.
the East Coast, right?
Say that again?
You're in the East Coast?
Yes, I am. I'm in Atlanta right now.
Oh, Atlanta.
So
yes.
So
is
we
this
really appreciate you staying up this late.
Yes,
to
we
call
appreciate
in.
it.
Are you kidding? I was up watching The Walking Dead.
Ah, okay. That's the real reason why.
Now, is it hard
Yes,
for you
and
to?
it deserved a double take. That was an awesome episode.
Oh, it was. We were just saying we were like on such an emotional high right now. Like I don't even know what to do right now.
I would call it an emotional down. I don't know about a high.
Well, it's up and down. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. Between this phone call and this episode, I'm telling you, my stomach is just a whirligig.
Oh,
Well, I hope this phone call isn't too nerve-wracking for you. But I have to say, Norman Reedus did a great job displaying those emotions at the end of the episode for what he had to do.
Oh my God, he did. And he and Merle tonight just killed me.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Is this the first time you've seen the episode then?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm sorry. Was this the first time you had seen the episode then?
Yeah.
Wow.
So do you like to wait until it actually airs before you watch it, or do you tend to get the DVD with the episodes beforehand, like a lot of press do?
We're not getting DVDs, at least I'm not, but we had, before we wrapped, we were watching some of the near completed episodes. We would have a viewing night with the cast and crew. And then once we wrapped up, we didn't watch them anymore because we weren't together and we're all scattered, and so watching them on television as they're airing is how I'm viewing them for the first time, the second half of the season anyway, and it's just blowing me away. His performances are just amazing.
I have a question for you. Like, how do you, I mean, each week there's so many things with the characters, and we don't know who's going to die and who's alive. How do you keep the morale on the set when, like, so many characters die? I mean, I'm emotional right now. How do you stay sane, you know, just with the characters that die each week?
I'm emotional right now too. I can't. It's one thing to be wrapping your castmate, final wrap, and then to see this, you get so invested in, because as actors we're living the characters and living with these characters, and I get into the show as a viewer. But how do we keep the morale up? We get into our, we just get into our work, and we get into each other, and really we do have a good time between the shots and the setups. We laugh a lot, joke around a lot, just to lighten it up.
Yeah.
So
it's so intense.
Yeah.
And we actually have this horrible problem on our show where every time we have a guest, they die the next week. So we're hoping that doesn't happen to Carole. But I do have
thank you.
Because we love Carole. We love Carole.
You might be safe not being physically in the studio.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the whole thing about being in the studio.
We had Glenn Mazzara last week, so we thought there might be
last week. I saw you guys talking about that. Maybe she'll just break a leg.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, we had Glenn last week, and we thought there might be a massacre today because of it. So fortunately, that hasn't happened today. But I do want to know, and I'm wondering, your character has had such a tremendous transformation throughout the season. And actually, Jen Marie from the chat wants to know what 3 adjectives you'd say you'd have for your character's transformation.
Wow. I don't know if they're all adjectives.
Well, how would you describe it, though? Because she really has changed.
It's kind of it's forced, and it's really not that different. I mean, it's what we go through as people when we're just our journey, and when we're going through the world and growing and moving into different relationships and phases in our life, and she just was faced with this situation that is forcing these changes. She just has to do this. It's fight or give up, and I think she's probably. I think she's a fighter.
Yeah.
I just think she's a fighter, and she always has been. People find themselves in situations, and it's hard to get out of. She's tactical, she can think, but she's finally getting the courage to do. I think when she was with Ed, she was always having to be very careful and look over her shoulder and think ahead of herself, like a chess game almost. Like, if I do this, he's going to do that. If I don't, And I think this world is a lot like that. Yeah. So she's got that going for her. But now it's really fight or flight. She's going to fight. And it's forcing courage. It's forcing courage.
Well, and I love when you talk about that, because I always think about what Carole said to Andrea about killing the governor. I thought that, what did you think when you read that from the script? Because it took a lot of people by shock to hear Carole say, give this man the best night of his life, and then kill him.
Yeah.
Right, where did that come from?
Yeah, it was a little bit that way.
Yeah, Carole. Well, it was kind of a game changer when, there was that scene with... Glenn was talking about going into the prison or going to Woodbury and just, let's just off the governor. And Carole says, we're not assassins. And then here we are out in the courtyard of the prison, and Axel gets shot to the head right in front of her, and I think the game changed a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, we need to do something. But you know, it's not that far fetched. I am sure with years of being in an abusive relationship and not just going through all these different ways I can get out of this. I am sure that crossed her mind at the lowest point.
Well, how do you, like, in those scenes, because you've had so many emotional scenes, like, how do you actually break out of those scenes? You know, like, you know, you've had your as you were mentioning, your husband who was abusive. You've lost your daughter. You know, you've lost T-Dog. You've lost Lori. How do you go from those scenes and then, like, literally come out of that, like, without all those emotions? Like, describe, like, how you are on the day of the set. I let the story motivate me. I don't think of, you know, sad personal things in my own life. Those emotions are there. I have experienced, unfortunately, a lot of loss in my life. I have 2 brothers and a sister that have passed, and I'm sorry.
It's okay not to be a downer, but you know, this life experience, and then as far as bringing it to the acting, I really just want the character, the life of the character, and what her story is, and the situation. I just get into that. But I have those feelings, and they're there, you know. But I just let the story guide me, and what's happening between these characters to guide me. And to get out of it, I just, you know, some scenes are harder than others, but I don't try to carry it too much. I kind of just let it go.
Yeah, that's,
you know,
that's one, as an actor, I know you need to draw from experiences and life experience, and then that's unfortunate that you have that, but hopefully you can channel it.
Can I just throw something out there, Dave? I mean, I've been out in LA for acting and stuff, and there's lots of teachers who will throw people into the stage and tell them to dredge up those memories for the scene, but there's also a lot of people who believe that can be actually very damaging to the actor as a person. And do you kind of agree with that, Melissa, where it's, if you do pull out those things, it kind of makes them mean less to you in a way?
Well, you know, everybody's different as far as where they go and how they approach, and it's this is a tough one because it is. It's, you know, it's just very different for everyone. But for me, I don't want to be thinking of something personal, when something that happened to me, my own experience, necessarily, when I'm living the life of that character. I want to be true to her experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you've got to get a shot, you go where you have to go, no matter what.
Now, just to lighten the mood a little bit, in terms of drawing from personal life or not, how is it working with you have such great chemistry. I'm gonna go with the Daryl questions now. Do you draw on the fact he's so adorable, and I've met him recently, and he's like one of the nicest guys? Does that make it really easy in the scenes to kind of to go with that? And do you also play it as, because people are pairing you guys up like relationship, potential love interest?
The Carolers is what they call you guys. The Carolers.
Yeah, Carolers.
The Carolers.
Do you play it off that way, or just?
Carolers.
We love that, by the way.
You know, whatever their relationship is, they're relating. They obviously have some sort of a bond. What I like about it, and what I like about the writers, what they're doing, is that it's undefined. It's not defined. And who knows, even to them, it's not defined. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't have to be. It just is, and I love that about them. And I love what I love is letting the writers do their job. And you just stay in the moment. And my bond with Daryl is what it is.
So, kind of bouncing off of the whole Daryl question line, the Walking Dead army from the chat are curious how you think Daryl will handle the death of Merle, and also people from the chat are wondering if you feel. Well, I guess I don't know if you can answer this, but they're pondering if he's going to come to you for comfort. I don't know how much you can really answer that question, because that might be next week's episode.
Yeah, that might be next week's episode.
They might be in the watchtower together.
Exactly.
I don't know. I would think, you know what, Daryl's a very Daryl is a very private person as far as his emotions go. I don't know.
So
I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want you to have to ruin anything.
Yeah.
But a question from Stellar Dream on the chat: any scenes this season that got cut you wish had made it on screen? Because I know Lou was sad a bunch of his scenes kind of got mixed and messed up with. Are there any scenes that you were in that got cut that you wish had made it?
Let's see. Well, I loved the scene with Merle a couple of episodes back that was cut. Hopefully that will be on the DVD. But that was a great scene, and I'm sorry that didn't make it in. And there was also a scene, was it last episode or the episode before, when Maggie and Glenn are coming to terms and making up. There was a really sweet scene with me and Glenn.
Yeah.
Out beyond the garage door, the roll-up door.
The whole garage door moment.
Maggie came out. Yeah, the sex garage.
Yeah.
The sex garage.
Yeah, that.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, for the fans, I know you were a casting director in Atlanta. How did you hear about the role and become a part of the cast for The Walking Dead? I'm sure a lot of people would like to know that.
Yeah, I had been acting in the early 90s up through, it was 99, and a position opened up at Bennett Stillwell Casting in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was a great opportunity for me because I was thinking I wanted to change in the industry. I wanted to try something different. I lived in Atlanta for a long time and didn't have any aspiration to go to LA or anything and really pursue the acting. The acting for me is kind of a byproduct, I say, of a greater pursuit. And so I took this job at the casting office, and I've been working there for probably 10 years, I guess. And in the meantime, I was just taking a few acting jobs that were meaningful to me for whatever reason. And I believe, I can't remember what year it was. Anyway, when The Mist came along, and that was a Frank Darabont project.
Yeah.
I went and read for one of the parts. And the funny thing was that the part that I read for, initially, I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it because it took quite a bit of time away from work. I would have to be in the grocery store for the duration of the shoot.
Yeah.
And so I came back from that audition, and I got a call to go and read for another part. And ultimately got this part. And I loved the scene. And it was 2 days of shooting, which was perfect.
Yeah, nice and
a
short.
couple of days off work. But it was great, and it was Frank Darabont, and it was an amazing experience, and I loved the scene, and that was that. Then 3 years later, I'm in the casting office. I get a phone call from the agent that got me into the Mist, and they said, Frank Darabont's in town working on the show called The Walking Dead, and there's a part if you want it. And I was like, oh, Well,
A few more days off of work then.
Yeah, just a few more days.
yeah, and when that came along, I wasn't sure what the part was. I wasn't familiar with the comic book, and I wondered how much time I would take from work.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And
Just a little
here
bit.
we are. So it's great. It's been amazing.
And you've worked
I
with.
never would have thought when I took the part that I would even be here right now talking with you guys.
Yeah, I really blew up more than I think anyone could have imagined. I think it's like right now it's one of, if not the #1 show amongst males for the 18 to I believe 35 age bracket. So
I can't wrap my head around it. I just can't.
And what's your favorite part about playing Carole?
My favorite part is playing Carole.
Yeah. What do you like the most about playing that character?
Oh gosh. I love it that she's coming into her own.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
yeah,
She represents a lot to me, a lot of people to me in my life. And to see her come out the other side is probably my favorite thing.
Yeah.
well, she truly has had a tremendous transformation throughout the show. But we do need to talk about the show now and get on this amazing episode that we've had. Are you going to stick around with us, or do you need to head out?
I probably need to head out.
All right. Well,
It's a little late. We'll
yeah.
let you guys dissect that.
I think that's 12:20 in the morning now, or 12:30 in the morning your time.
It's 12:30.
Oh,
and,
man.
my dog Lincoln here is. I think
Oh.
he's going to
What kind of dog do you
outside and
have?
do a whizzer before we go to bed.
Yeah, that's the final interview question from Kristin. What dog do you have?
I actually
What
wanted.
dog I have? He's
Yeah.
a
What kind of
beautiful
dog?
What kind of
Basset
dog?
Hound,
Oh.
and I
Aw.
inherited him from my best friend.
Well, we'll have to tweet pictures of him with the episode.
Yes. We have a dog here at the studio named Buzz.
I really want Daryl to ask his question about Axel.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, I'm
let's
sorry.
get that
I've been
one.
waiting for that.
Okay,
final
I'm sorry.
question.
Final question. Did Axel really stand a chance?
He was flirting his butt off
I'm gonna
with
take
you.
that as maybe a
Oh,
yes,
man.
maybe.
Well, I don't know. Depends on how long Daryl would be away.
Oh, that's the exclusive. We love it. We love it.
Me.
All right,
You
well,
guys are fun. Thank you.
So are you.
No,
no,
thank
thank
you.
you
Wonderful
so
to
much.
have
You
you
were great.
on. And thank you to your
Thanks
PR
for
person,
having
Kitty.
me.
She's been great to work with to get you on here. So
Yeah, absolutely. This is
We'll have to get you in the studio when you're in LA for sure.
yes, we would love to have
Yeah, that would be fun. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
thank you so much, Melissa.
We have on the chat Sarah Parsons saying poor Axel. We have Laura Jones saying I miss Axel. So a lot of sympathy now for Axel because of that. But let's go ahead and jump on this episode. Melissa McBride, pleasure to have her. That
Love
was
you.
wonderful.
You're great.
She's gone now, but that was great. So this episode was, as we were mentioning at the beginning of the show, was absolutely crazy. And we had at the beginning Rick at first wanting to kill, well, not kill, but send Michonne to the governor. And he goes and talks to Merle about it and tries to recruit Merle to help out. And Merle doesn't think that Rick has the spine for it.
I do like when he went up to him though, that Merle actually felt a bit honored. He's like, "Oh, the inner circle. I'm honored about this." That they would actually bring him in to do this. Of course, it's not exactly for the best reason to bring him in because they want him, as even Michonne says, to take out the trash.
Well, I feel given the entire tone of the episode that he was being kind of facetious when he said that.
Yeah.
I don't think he was being like, I think he was being like, oh, the inner circle, I'm honored. I think it was more of like from his perspective, like, great, here I am again, as we bring out from the rest of the episode, taking out the garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I still have mixed emotions about that because I really feel that Michonne is something that's needed in their group, and I understand Rick's reasoning with it, but I still have a problem with him being able to give up Michonne for that purpose, because I feel like she's such an asset to their team that should have been a decision that may have been thought about a little bit longer or bigger, and a different decision should have been made. Honestly, that's my personal opinion.
I think it hurt too that Herschel didn't really say anything to Rick when they were talking originally about it, and Rick had said to him, "I'm hoping you'll talk me out of it."
Yeah.
And Herschel was pretty quiet about that. Or when he asked, is she worth the lives of your daughters? And we even touch upon that a little bit with Herschel later, where he says to both Beth and Maggie, and I'm getting ahead of myself slightly, that he's like, what I wouldn't do for you guys.
Yeah.
That's a derivative of what he said. But the fact that I was surprised that that's how they started the episode, because it seemed like they had already had that all figured out. But apparently he wasn't getting any backup from, I'm a little disappointed in Herschel, because you hear him later on say something under his breath about that this is a bad thing. But he has the most influence over Rick. Nobody's talking to him.
Yeah.
Nobody's telling him no.
I mean, I guess I think Herschel doesn't want his kids to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rick doesn't want his kids to die. So none of them really want to do it, but they're just thinking about their kids at the time.
Yeah, I just feel like she's proven herself so much with them that, I was just disappointed that they were still willing to give her up. I mean, it's just my personal opinion, but I wanted them to have the opposite effect with her and keep her on the team, and not even, I thought they were going to have like some alternate plan where, okay, we're going to act like we're going to give up Michonne, and then, we're going to do something else. I don't know. I just felt like she's proven herself with the team, so it should not have been so easily accessible for her to be given up.
And the whole fact that Rick was even saying again in an earlier episode that even if we gave her up, he's still going to try to kill us. And apparently somewhere in between an episode, where Andrea's getting traced and all of that, he must have forgotten that idea completely. Yeah. Because that's what he was going to do. I mean, we know that, but you can suspect that anyways. Yeah. And here's a guy that's out of his mind.
I think that's why the end of the episode was so important for Rick to tell everyone that it's everyone, not just me. Because he's surrounded, because at the moment, since it's a Rick-tatorship, everyone's a yes man. Right. So it's like true. There's so many people who, like even Norman Reedus or Daryl is like, Merle tells him this is the wrong thing, and he's like, yeah, I know. But we do what Rick says. I mean, it's too much yes, yes, yes. Nobody's really sticking out for themselves. They're just, oh, Rick said it. I better go with it.
Right. Yeah. Well, we have a Windy lady agreeing with you guys that she can't believe that they even considered giving Michonne up in the first place. And then again, I think, and then Sarah Parsons mentions when you have kids, it changes how you view the world. And I really think it's just specifically that perspective. Yeah. But, and then, so, because Rick has Judith to think about and Carl to think about. But speaking of Carl, he's with Maggie, and they're kind of pulling zombies away for Michonne to get out. Kind of this, interesting method using noise to distract the walkers. Mm-hmm. And Michonne gets out of the car, and it was her idea. And there's kind of the mention that we don't have to win, we just have to make it more trouble than it's worth for the governor. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the thought that process that they're under. But back to Merle, because I think that's kind of the interesting thing going on with this episode, is Merle was with Melissa McBride, with Carole, and Merle's kind of talking to himself, saying there ain't no way, just kind of thinking about Rick, and Carole overhears this, and Carole wants to know from Merle, are you with us? And she brings up that defining line of where is he? What side is he on?
Because nobody knows why he's there, and he says, I'm here for my brother. And at least Carole put two and two together and is like, well, he's here for the prison, so if that's what Daryl wants, then by default, that's what Merle wants. So I guess that's a safe bet because Daryl is for sure with the prison group. Yeah. So, and Merle can't go back to Woodbury.
Nah, not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, as we were saying tonight, as we were watching the episode, tonight's been the first night I actually felt like an emotional connection to Merle, to be honest with you. As a character, I felt drawn to him tonight. I felt like I finally start to know who he really is as a person.
So of course they were going to kill him off.
Yeah,
of course. Well, I mean, you were kind of talking about how noticing all these foreshadows throughout the episode, and I feel like there's a big foreshadow here, which was Merle telling Carole, you're a late bloomer, regarding how much she's changed since her ex-husband and all that. And Carole says, maybe you are too, to him, which kind of foreshadows what's to come with his character.
Was I the only one waiting for her to say something about Sophia?
Sophia!
Yeah, I wanted to hear something for Sophia too. I'm with you on that.
Merle knew who Sophia was, but he never even mentions like what happened to her or anything like that.
I mean, I think he just assumes. You live in this world long enough, you kind of just assume what happened.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're talking about like what changed her into who she is, and I think like, well, losing a daughter will do that. I thought she was going to throw that out there or something like
So,
that.
Yeah.
but maybe that'll draw Daryl and Carole more together too, because they both had to come across their loved one as a zombie. That sounds really weird to say. I wasn't talking about Walking Dead.
Let's get Morgan in on that too. Then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So immediately following, we've got Glenn with Daryl now, and Glenn wants to know about Merle. So kind of Merle's redemption tale theme is Glenn wants to know if Merle ever said he was sorry, and Daryl believes that Merle is gonna make it right somehow, and we kind of get also the intersecting storyline about Glenn's love with Maggie, where all he cares about is Maggie. He doesn't care so much about how Merle mistreated him.
Yeah.
More specifically, Maggie. But again, it's kind of that storyline of Merle's redemption from everybody's point of view.
Yeah.
And Daryl really believes in him throughout, which is why right afterwards we have Daryl with Merle, and we have that scene where Merle, and what you brought up, Steven, about Daryl kind of just following whatever Rick says, and Merle wants to know if Daryl even thinks it's a good idea, and Daryl won't really say. I mean, clearly he doesn't think it's a good idea.
I want to say something about this scene because I found it really interesting while I was watching it. While you're watching Daryl in this scene, his relationship with Merle and the way he speaks to him and his mannerisms, he is exactly like Carl in the way Carl acts when speaking to Rick. It's like Daryl is trying to play the card like, look, man, like, come back to us, like, we need you, but I'm still like the strong guy. Like, I'm the strong guy, you need to come back. And it's the same way Carl was acting with Rick, and the voice and the speech mannerisms, like, I hardly ever tweet, and I tweeted to him, and it was like, is this intentional? Because they are so similar in this scene.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of that also that father regard too, where it's like the big brother, fatherly vibe of someone that you want to approve of you. So it's kind of that vibe too. I feel
Daryl
like.
definitely looks up to Merle no matter what. You know, that's his big brother. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and Norman Reedus spoke to that for our interview, that he was saying that he definitely plays it off big brother, little brother as much as possible. And you can definitely see those tones that even though he's telling Merle what to do, he's still a little bit shy about it. This isn't, he still feels slightly, because he is a little brother.
He's a little brother.
Like, I want my brother back.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
And he sees who he really is. You know, he's grown up with him, so he knows. So, I mean, it's always going to be that for those two. You know.
So this is kind of funny to me. Rachel Steiner on the chat saying, "Stop making me cry more. You guys think I'm kidding. I'm in tears here over everything mentioned of Daryl with being with Merle right now." And this kind of
me too. I feel you. Me too.
And
I was tearing up in the room. I felt like.
And this is pretty much their final scene together too.
Yeah.
This is their final scene together, and the final moment together is him saying, "I just want my brother back."
Yeah.
So kind of a hard final moment. And Merle's kind of packing things away, and after they finish talking and Daryl heads out, and Merle has this kind of this, he tells Daryl, sometimes there needs to be a bad guy, and if that's who I am, that's fine. There needs to be someone to do the dirty work, that's who I am. And he explains that, and then when Daryl leaves, he actually looks upset. Merle looks, to me, he looked very upset. And it also looked like he was taking the phone that Rick was going crazy on.
I noticed that too. I think that was for the wire, maybe as part of, or maybe her leash.
Okay, it could be.
Because I was wondering, I actually wrote that down as well. I'm like, Merle takes phone, Rick's phone. But I think that's what that might have been used for. Because if you notice, he was leading her around with the leash and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I was just thinking, like, wait, is that Rick's phone? That maybe it would come into play later on. So immediately following that, we got Herschel praying with Maggie and Beth, and Rick sees, and alternately, while they're saying this prayer, Rick is juxtaposed with this, seeing Lori as Rick's trying to like create this restraint for Michonne, and has a moment, and I kind of relate Lori to his conscience. So I feel like he saw his conscience come through and tell him, no, don't do this, don't go through with this. And he changed his mind, decided he couldn't go through with it. And he goes over and tells Herschel that he just can't do it.
Do you think it makes a difference that it was the Lori that was pregnant and the one that we had known rather than white-dressed Lori? I think that definitely was a difference where, like you said, we're seeing more of his conscience for that rather than him actually thinking he's seeing her in a white dress. I think this was more of a, remember, we have our child. And I kept thinking of what she said to Carl, and I'm sure she had said it to Rick at some point, is if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And that's what I think she was trying to tell him as well.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that back up. I kind of forgot about that line, and that is one of the few things she told him near the end, or just in general, and also told Carl. She told Carl something very similar. So that is good that you bring that up.
That's what I kept thinking, because I don't remember. I know for sure she said it to Carl, so I was thinking that's what she was trying to tell him, because I'm sure in the past if that was a motto for hers.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
So his conscience comes through, and we also get an interesting line from Herschel during that same scene, which is he says, "What I wouldn't do to keep you safe," to Beth and Maggie. So he's still on the line of thinking that they're going to go through with this, and obviously he doesn't want to. His conscience is attacking him as well, but it's still that fatherly, and I'm assuming motherly too, but just that parent perspective.
For sure. Yeah.
So Michonne is then with Merle, and after Rick has finally changed his mind, finally decided not to do it, Merle decides to do the dirty work anyways.
Well, yeah, and I still appreciate actually Merle, like I was saying earlier, is that I felt a connection with him because he's been such a character that I didn't know I didn't like him. I have not liked him the entire season really, and just previous seasons. And tonight was the first night that I actually saw like, wow, he's like a human being. Like he actually has emotions. Even the way he treated Michonne. I mean, once we'll talk about this later, but he let her out the car and just let her be free, and he had to take this voyage for himself, and I really appreciated that about him. I felt like I got to know Merle for the first time, honestly, tonight.
I think it's also just that we were talking about Carole or Melissa McBride's character's change. It's also that change that Merle has gone throughout.
Yeah.
And I think just that toll of having killed 16 people and everything has paid a toll on him. He's not that cocky asshole anymore that he was at the beginning of the first season.
Yeah. And I think even Michonne asked him a question when they were in the car about, I think she said, did you kill anyone previous to
like the zombie apocalypse? And then
he said no.
To the governor,
yeah,
even.
And
so
he
all
said
of 16 was under the governor's rule.
Yeah. So, I mean, Merle is then right immediately afterwards, he's leading Michonne to the governor, and that's when they're having this discussion. And Merle also explains the situation to Michonne. And throughout this entire time, Merle even explains to her that he's just there for dirty work. But throughout this entire time, Michonne's trying to tell him it's not too late, you can still redeem yourself. It's not too late, you can still redeem yourself. So she's trying to build that into him. And she obviously does a good job of doing it, but Merle keeps having this issue where he finally realizes that is his role that he plays. He's the bad guy, he tells Daryl. He's doing the dirty work, he tells Michonne and Rick. And he's just, I think, finally just snaps with him that he's just sick of being that bad guy. And he tells Daryl in the prison, something that we kind of glossed over and I forgot to mention, that the way all the prisoners look at him, you think he was the devil or something to that. He says something to that extent. And I think he's just so tired of being hated by everybody.
Do you think deep down inside that really bothers him?
I think so. I think deep down, I think if people looked at him with reverence for what he was doing, that'd be different. But I think he's just sick of nobody liking him, people fearing him, and people always hating him. He's just sick of that type of attention he's getting.
He has such an amazing arc for a 1-hour episode.
Yeah.
Because, he goes from that, remember, what's the first thing we see him doing? He's cutting open beds, trying to look for dope. Yeah. So he can cope with the fact that he's surrounded in a place that he doesn't fit in, where everyone looks at him like he's the devil. Yeah. When, yes, of course, she says an evil soul is light as a feather. They don't care. But of course, he's weighed down very heavily by disease. I think it was most telling when he knows how many people he's killed.
Well, he seems like he shouldn't have any emotions, and that's what's surprising to me. Like, we actually saw that tonight, like how much emotion he really has, how much he really does care.
Well, I thought that one of the big reasons, obviously, is he saw such a change in Daryl, and I think that more than anything is what drives him to be a better person. Yeah. The killing the 16 people and all that, I think those are all parts of it, but to think that his brother even questions his motives and has to come up to him and talk to him about, I want my brother back and all that, I think that hurts even more than the rest of it.
Yeah, and we get during that scene with Merle walking with Michonne, Michonne asks Merle what he wants or what he's after, and Merle explains, I just want to be with my brother, Daryl. That's all. That's really his entire motivation. So that also builds off of what you were saying, Kristin, where he's just upset about the fact that Daryl had to come over and talk to him like that.
I mean, it's a tragic thing, because what does Merle want? Merle wants his brother back. Back when they started this thing, they were in it with each other. They were going to knock over, steal everything, and Daryl was with him. Daryl was the guy. So Merle didn't change, really. Daryl doesn't want his brother back. Daryl just wants his brother to change, and that's kind of what probably kills him inside, is because Merle didn't change. Daryl's the one that changed. Merle should want his brother back.
Yeah, that's a good point. It really is Daryl who had a stronger arc in who he became from the beginning of the show. I mean, he was always came off as a nice guy, but not. I mean, when Daryl comes back in season 1, everyone was like, "Oh no, what's Daryl gonna say when Merle's missing? He's gonna go on a rampage." So there's something you didn't quite see there before the show started of who Daryl's character was. And then this is kind of the moment where we get Rick and Daryl talking, and Rick can't find Merle or Michonne, and Daryl tells Rick that he wants to go after Merle alone, and this is his thing to do, and leaves Rick to the group so he can go off on his own. But after all of this happens and Daryl's now in the chase, we get Herschel leading Michonne to a motel and saying, I think we're good. He finally finds a car that he can jump, and the car alarm goes off. Whoops. And we once again seen the walkers being a threat. And do you have it in the studio, the walker kill of the week, Steven?
Not in this studio, sorry.
Oh.
I can do it for you.
I finally had a walker kill of the week.
You finally had it? Okay, well, it kind of was like...
That's pretty good. That sounds pretty good.
Okay, imagine a really cool graphic for everyone watching and listening playing over that with that sound.
With the Walking Dead theme music and gunshots.
And gunshots. I think this had my favorite walker kill of the week, which was when Michonne is tied up and she has to use her own tie to strangle and rip a walker's head off.
The cheese cutter.
Yeah.
Yes, the cheese cutter method.
I thought you were going to say when she kicked the guy back and then stomped on his head, because
that was
caught
my
me off
favorite.
off surprise. I thought that fat zombie, can I just say fat zombie? The fat zombie
I'm offended.
I think it's politically correct.
Was going to bite Merle there maybe or something like that. Like, I wasn't sure, although that would have been too early.
He doesn't get out that easy.
Yeah, but here's my thing. Like, why didn't Merle realize that by setting off that car alarm that it would attract... He knows that it attracts zombies.
Well, I think he was hoping it wouldn't set off a car alarm. That was just a mistake of trying to jump the car.
I think he was trying to stop it before the zombies came.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to stop the car alarm because it went off when it stopped going off when he finally got out to kill the walkers.
I mean, Derrial, can you criticize? This guy has one hand and he jump starts a car.
I'm just saying, you know.
So we're getting from the chat that your voice from Rachel Steiner sounds like Golem, by the way, Steven.
Zombie Golem.
No, I can't do Gollum. Come on, guys.
That's pretty good, though.
And Kristin Muntalans on the chat says a fat walker is a well-fed walker.
It's a good point.
That means it's one of the ones you got to watch out for. That's what that means.
He was able to get up pretty close to Merle without him noticing. So, and his stomach was hanging out a little bit.
Yeah.
Didn't look so well put together.
Was that a play on words? His stomach was hanging out a little
bit. Well. Bump.
So they do get away, and Michonne again doesn't try to escape at all. She jumps right in the car and they talk, and she's trying to get him not to do this and not to lead to his own destruction, telling him that he can go back to the prison. It's not too late. He can prove himself. This was his chance to prove himself, and he lets her go, but decides to leave on his own. Decides that he has a mission. And this is, as I predicted, his moment where he's going to redeem himself.
Well, and a couple weeks ago in the episode, he almost did the same thing when he was talking to Michonne and wanted to leave and go kill the governor. I mean, it was inevitable. It was going to happen. Is what he's been planning for a while. So I think it's his own personal battle that he has just to get back to the governor and try and kill him himself. So.
Yeah, and he does go and kind of leads all these walkers by using the car alarm method again, and just drinking some booze. Trying to
Listen to
Trying
the
out a song.
Motorhead.
That'll
was-
get you going.
Was it Zeppelin that he was?
I thought it was
cranking?
Zeppelin. Was it Motorhead?
It sounded like Motorhead.
I'm not
It
exactly
was
sure.
more like yeah. I mean, it sounded like Motorhead to me. I don't know.
I just love that he
If
was.
you guys know in the chat.
On the chat, if you know what song that was, please let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
I like that. At first, I wasn't sure where he was going with it because he had the music up so loud and he was just drinking a lot. And then he starts moving the car, and I thought it was more like, "Oh, zombie can't catch me."
Yeah,
Zombie
it was kind
can't
of like
catch
a
me."
messing with the walkers.
And then as soon as obviously when you start, you're like, "Oh, that's actually very smart of him to do that." Kind of use their own tactic against them is bring the walkers around for a threat, like how they had done at the prison, where they, let them loose in there. They're not expecting the prison group to do that.
Yeah. So Father Wizard answers our question. Ted Nugent.
Oh, it's Ted Nugent. Okay.
That would be the song,
And that's appropriate.
or at least that's the songwriter.
Yeah.
So he kind of goes off in a blazing cowboy way. But yeah, he does do what you said. He tricks them in a way that the prison group wouldn't normally. It is something that they wouldn't do. Sets all the walkers on the meetup point and then hangs back and starts shooting at various members. Unfortunately, he doesn't get Martinez. And as he's about to shoot the governor, what do you know? Ben happens to step in the way.
Headshot.
So we actually had to pause and make sure, but that was Ben, who's Alan's son, who gets shot and killed.
And it looked like in the face, like the side of the face. I know some people thought it was the shoulder, but it was the side of the face, right?
I think it was, I think it was his face.
Yeah.
It was enough to knock him out where Merle can eat him later.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
So I have to wonder for the next episode how much that's going to change Alan's take on what they should do.
Yeah.
And
Alan's already, if you notice, Tyrese and Sasha were not part of that group.
Yeah.
Alan's already doing whatever they're asking of, because he also doesn't like this prison group anyways. He's just a very angry man.
Oh, so I'm getting now on the chat that Muntalan says there was 2 songs. Motorhead was first. So maybe the second song was the Ted Nugent one, or maybe it was Led Zeppelin. I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to
look at that.
find out on the YouTube and comment on YouTube for what it really was when we look it up. But so this is really Merle going out in a blaze of glory and really redeeming himself, really showing his character, and he just won't go down with a fight. And even after he's kind of like caught by a walker and that throws off his game, and then he starts getting beat into a pulp, he still won't stop fighting. And the governor gets a little brutal there, biting off his fingers.
Yeah.
We saw 2 fingers go.
Yeah, 2 fingers.
Yeah.
For him, and then 2 fingers for the walker we didn't talk with.
Yeah, which we'll get
Glenn
to when we
Maggie,
talk
yeah.
about that.
So appropriate. I mean, the government likes whiskey. Maybe he just likes 2 fingers.
2 fingers
Oh,
with
okay.
his whiskey.
Here we go. I got the answer on the song. I'm just so obsessed with this now. From Father Wizard and Muntalans, the first song was Motorhead. The second was Ted Nugent's song "Turn It Up."
Okay.
Nice.
There we go.
Dave's going to be listening to that on the
There
way
it
home
is.
tonight.
We're all listening to it on the way home.
And you don't want to know what's going to happen after that.
Yeah, we don't.
Just don't follow him.
Yeah, don't follow Dave.
You will be running to quite the surprise.
Uh-oh.
And I was really sad at that moment. I think I did yell at the screen because, he ends up outside, and they kind of saw him anyways. But it's unfortunate that zombie was there, and he kind of was stabbing him a lot in the head, and then he fell out the doors. And I was like, no, don't. Just push him away for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah, it's like I thought like the same thing. I was like, can't you just push him and then keep shooting?
Yeah.
Just take down Martinez. Just one of the big players.
That would have been really helpful.
But I'm sure like you still take out a couple of the guys that have guns and can do some damage, so it helps more than it hurts.
Yeah, that's true.
He took out, killed 8 of them, I believe.
Was
They
it
said in
8?
Was it,
in the-
I had
in the
7, but
previews,
7 or 8. Yeah.
The governor said the prisoners killed 8 men.
Okay.
So I'm assuming,
Well, was that during that moment, or was that all collectively, including the previous times?
I'm not sure. It's just a quick clip from
Yeah,
next
so-
week's episode.
Not sure in there, but he did get quite a few rounds off. And before we get to the final moment with Merle, and also some other things, I do want to mention, guys, that please go to YouTube or iTunes, rate and comment, positive or negative. We just want to know your guys' thoughts, how we can make this show better for you. So please do let us know, and go to the live chat. You've heard me interacting with people from the live chat, and we will do that. We'll read out your points. We just want to hear what you guys have to think. So come join us. That's 9 p.m. Pacific time, 12 a.m. East Coast time. Pretty late for Melissa McBride.
But she's a trooper.
But she's a trooper for doing it for us.
She's got her dog with her.
And she's got her dog to keep her company. Yeah. So, guys, and thank you everyone who's on the chat right now. So, before we get to the final moment, because we'll want to discuss that for a bit, let's jump on the whole wedding planning, where Glenn first goes to Herschel to get his approval, and he does. And then right afterwards, he goes Zompocalypse style ring finding, where he just finds a random girl walking, says, "That looks like a nice ring."
That was a nice diamond, by the way.
It was a very nice diamond.
It was very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot of choices now, so might as well find the best one.
That's very true.
Look for a skinny blonde zombie.
Yes, exactly. Find a trophy wife zombie, as you're saying. So, or you could just keep. Maybe we missed a lot of just cutting. You cut a couple of girls off, like, I could do better.
That's not
than
the
this.
right one.
Not the right one. That doesn't feel very Maggie to me.
Yeah.
I feel like I could get a better Maggie one.
He's got a lot of fingers in his cell right now.
And then he has the worst proposal ever.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed, but on the other hand,
well, he kind of just
times
handed
of the
her
essence.
the ring. You know, it wasn't really a proposal. You know.
I thought he was gonna go down on one knee at least.
Yeah.
At least go down on a knee. No.
I wonder. Maggie looked excited either way, which I think is the more important thing. And then I was kind of wondering, would she have wanted him to go all full out, or just the fact that it was simple and he just wanted to do. I mean, they don't even have anybody that can officially marry them.
Yeah.
But I like that that's something. Well, I'll talk about the comics later, but there's something that parallels that in the comics. So, and I was hoping that they would do that where he proposes to her.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I appreciate the relationship between Herschel and Glenn. I mean, we saw a couple weeks back. It was an episode where Glenn was having kind of like this frantic moment, and Herschel told him that he considered him his son. Mm-hmm. And just to see that to where they are today, I really love the way that relationship's blossomed between the two.
And I did like him pulling out the stopwatch too.
Yeah.
And commenting on how he finally understands what it means before he asks for Maggie's hand in marriage. So he does kind of bring that up too, and then tell Herschel respectfully, like, I understand, I get it now. Yeah. Which is a great moment. And we have Haley on the chat kind of agreeing with me. Worst proposal ever.
Oh, it was.
I mean,
sure.
He could have at least proposed in a romantic place like the garage.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been more romantic.
Yeah.
Or
during sex,
would
whatever.
you call that
Exactly.
romance?
Whatever. On a watchtower, whatever.
When you love someone, it is romance, Kristin.
I'm still just humming to myself, every kiss begins with kiss. The whole time, that scene.
I was waiting for almost
That's
like
the new sponsor, Steven.
That is,
That's
I
the new
guess.
sponsor.
instead of Kentucky Fried Chicken, they
Exactly.
go
I'd say
into
they go
this
to-
episode brought to
Yeah.
you by K Jewelers.
by K Jewelers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
that would be great if that happened. I would have been so excited.
I actually think I would have really enjoyed
It would
that.
be this show of the worst commercial, like on top of it moments.
I agree.
Just like a series of them.
I agree.
Like the KFC?
Yeah, like the KFC. At least they're good about keeping their Hyundais clean.
They
That's
are.
better than if it would have been after Merle's part where they're like, and have this whiskey
Yeah,
brought
yeah.
to you by Jim
It's
Beam.
the zombie
Right.
apocalypse in 2009. Yet we
Yeah.
drive a
Hennessy is the
2013
sponsor.
car.
Right.
Yeah. Oh well.
Oh, well.
So let's get back to let's go ahead and talk about Rick, because after this, back in the prison, we get Rick's scene, his big scene where he admits to everybody that he was in the wrong. He tells them the truth about Michonne, tells them pretty much everything, that he was planning on sending Michonne to her death. He was wrong in doing it, and now the situation is Daryl's after Michonne to get her back, but Merle's bringing her and retracts the Rictatorship. That's the big thing. He retracts the Rictatorship. I wish he called it that.
Yeah.
I wish he said the Rictatorship is over.
I mean, honestly, that scene actually kind of pissed me off because of the fact that like there's nothing that they can do at that point. He's giving his remorse of what he did, but at that point, Michonne is already out there. She's the sacrilegious lamb at that point.
Yeah.
So,
But the episode was to show Rick's realization of how closely he is like the governor. I mean, think about it. The people, they'll do what it says, even though they don't really want to. He's sending somebody off to die, like not even to die, as Merle puts it, to have her eyes taken out. He was not going to kill her. He's going to mess with her till she dies. I mean,
right.
This is something. What would the governor do if a plan was botched like that? He would do the same thing he does every time. He would gather everybody and make up some fabricated lie to make it look like someone betrayed them or something like that. This is Rick I'm becoming the governor. I need to stop this where it is. This is what's going on. This is the truth. And if you're still going to stick with me, we're all together, but no one's in charge anymore.
Yeah, and I think, as you mentioned, it was kind of what Herschel told Rick at the beginning of the episode, that this is something the governor would do. And that really plays into a role for Rick's thinking, which is he doesn't want to be the governor. And then also seeing Morgan the other week, where kind of that warning sign of what he's becoming would be Morgan or becoming the governor. And he's finally stepping down and finally doing what he needs to do. And as Sarah Parsons on the chat says, Rick, he's been a good leader, but he finally recognizes everyone still has free will. Yeah. So he does finally do what needs to be done at this point. Like, yeah, there is a time and a place for a leader, and even the president has direct control at some points. He can take control and be an all authority on certain things, but only in certain times. And when you need to take that away when you don't need it anymore. Yeah. So Rick's realizing that.
Well, and also, I think he does realize that, but I think a part of it was too, I don't think he wanted to live with the guilt alone of making all of those decisions. I think that was also a personal standpoint. Although he was looking out for the group, I think he didn't like that if Michonne lived or died, that was his choice alone.
Yeah, it was on his.
It was too much for him.
It was on his blood.
Too.
It was on him.
Well, like, Rick always knows who he is. Like, he knows who he is through the choices he makes. And the first thing he says to Merle when he goes to talk to Merle is, "Why do you do what you do?" And when Merle's like, "I don't know why I do what I do," because his choices are only for survival. They're not himself anymore. So I think Rick kind of realizes that if he makes these choices, he's gonna start losing who he is and what he is.
Yeah, I totally agree. And at the end of the episode, he does spy and see Michonne walking back. So for him, I'm sure that's a lot of peace of mind, getting to see her and being like, okay, I didn't send her to this horrible whatever the governor is going to do. He has no idea just how bad it is, but I'm sure that's a bit of peace of mind for him, getting to see that.
I think Michonne's going to be a little pissed.
Yeah, as she should be. I mean, at the end of the day, he was going to send her there. So,
but she did get to see Daryl for that moment. So I think that was possibly a moment for her, like, finding out that Rick had retracted it. So I'd assume that there was a little bit of an exchange that we didn't see.
Well, you can tell Rick's obviously, like, worried though, because he sees Michonne, he has that relief, and then he's like, "Where's Daryl and where's Merle?"
Daryl and where's Merle? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Haley wants to know if we think Team Prison could have easily taken out the governor's group. I don't think so.
I think it'd be tough.
I mean, I guess if they had kind of done an entire ambush there, maybe they could have actually. That would have been a smart call. But
I don't think that they could have, just because of the manpower that the governor really has.
Yeah, but what if they use Herschel as a distraction point, suicidal Herschel moment, and then once they all think it's safe, they come in from the perimeters.
Do you mean Merle?
I'm a tactician. I'm like Tyrion for people who watch Game of Thrones.
You just said Herschel.
You said
Herschel. I meant Merle. I keep doing that. I think I did that last week too. Or
Herschel would be a hell of a sacrilegious person.
Like, what are you gonna do? Put him in a wheelchair to roll him towards?
Well, that could be a good distraction.
No way, it's because Herschel's very religious, so he would be the sacrificial lamb.
We'll tie him to a rascal and give him a boombox.
I just don't feel that they would be able to take out that group.
Yeah.
Well, and the hard thing is, again, how when they were doing the bargaining thing that couple episodes ago, where Merle was like, "Let's go and take them." You don't know how many people he's bringing,
right? Or
if he is going to have a herd of zombies with him. You don't know what you're up against when you go there. Now, given what we saw, if Merle would have had some backup in another couple of windows, I think they probably could have taken most of them, but you don't know going in there what they have set up. The governor could have not even been there. He could have just sent Martinez in a group. I was actually surprised he was almost there, to be perfectly honest.
I have no idea what they're going to do, because the only character that could actually shoot and hit humans is now gone.
Yeah.
A moment of silence.
A moment of silence. R.I.P.
Maggie.
I mean, I guess I think when your life is on the line and someone's shooting at you, life or death situation takes over.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that final moment that we had, which was Daryl spying the Walker version of Merle.
Oh,
so
I mean,
rough scene. Even though, as much as I've hated Merle throughout the entire season, they did such a good job of building his character this one single episode. Yeah. That it really established and made him more human, as you were saying, Derrial.
I mean, when I like I was saying, I was so emotional at the end of that scene because I just didn't expect that for one, and just Daryl's reaction to seeing his brother was like heart-wrenching. You know, I mean, that was like such an emotional scene from him, and I don't even know how to comment on it honestly because it was just such a great scene. It was one, to me, it goes down in history as one of the best scenes for all of the Walking Dead seasons.
I totally agree. I mean, it's funny too because it's a character you hated so much at the beginning of season 1, and somehow you end up caring. And I think a lot of it was to Daryl's great reaction that made you care so much of the way he sees it and the way he reacts.
Yeah.
And I like that he proved Michonne wrong because in the car she said to Merle, "No one's going to mourn you, not even Daryl," and that was so not true.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
that's
she
his
also
brother. I mean, that's his brother. He's no matter what.
She doesn't know him that well.
Yeah, she doesn't really know their relationship. So, yeah, I think she just was kind of spitting that out, trying to do whatever she could to get him to change his mind.
That was heartbreaking, though. I kind of wish I didn't know because I heard that he died, and then I saw something else that's like, zombie Merle, and I'm like, oh, well, they're gonna make.
You mean
Daryl
you heard it
kill
from my
him.
predictions? I'm gonna keep bringing that up.
Well, you didn't predict that he was gonna be a zombie, though.
No, that I didn't predict.
Very
You
rarely.
did predict that he was gonna die.
Very rarely in one season of a show can there be 2 times where it just like really gets you.
Yeah.
And we have Rick's, of course, reaction to Laurie's death now, and now we have. I mean, I'm wondering if they're gonna pull it out in the finale because I mean, who's gonna?
Well, my question is actually how is Daryl going to change now that Merle is dead? You know, I wonder. I want to know like where his mental state's going to go next season. You know, because is it going to make him like harden him, or is he going to? You know, I don't know where he's going to go. I'm so interested to find out where he actually goes as a character.
Yeah, because it seems like he was so distraught by it. This might be something that sets him over the edge, or hardens him, or something very negative like that.
And the scene's playing
the
in the background.
Playing right behind us. Wow,
Exactly.
what timing!
Oh my God, that's perfect timing.
That's really sad.
So heart-wrenching moment, but that kind of wrapped up the episode in that horrible moment. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the comic comparison because I know that you wanted to touch on that, Kristin, with the wedding.
Yeah,
and if people you don't want to hear about the comics, we're gonna talk about it for maybe a couple minutes, and then we'll get back to other things.
I remember I had talked to my roommate about it, and I was like, I really do hope they do a wedding at the prison with Glenn and Maggie, because in the comics they do a whole big wedding ceremony and everybody's there. There were more people at that point in the comics. It wasn't this far along, but I'm glad that they went there for that. And even though it was a not very good proposal, I like that. Maybe the wedding will be better. You know, orange jumpsuits for bridesmaids and groomsmen.
Yeah, I feel like they are going to do something, and maybe it'll be like a wedding interrupted or something to that extent when the attack happens. Yeah. But or hopefully not. Hopefully they'll at least get one moment of happiness. Mm-hmm. But that was a nice break in the comics where you at least get some humanity, where they're having some happiness and something that's familiar. And that's kind of what it brought out to them, just something familiar.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me nervous for Glenn or Maggie, though, if they get married, and I just have this horrible feeling that one of them would go, but I hope not.
Yeah.
Just seems.
I'm nervous for next week's season finale, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I am. Next week's season finale is going to be insane.
I'm scared to know like what's going to go down.
But before we get to predictions, let's talk about some comments from iTunes and YouTube. So on iTunes we had Snooky17, Brown Eyes. Yeah, Snooky. Was that really Snooky? Is that you? Brown Eyes 77, CJ Jones, Trexican, Barry Wallace, and Mama Little 7. Thank you guys so much for commenting. Barry Wallace says, season finale prediction: the governor will kidnap baby Judith to replace his lost Penny. I don't think a kidnapping is going to happen. I think the governor is set to seek and destroy. I think he's kill everything in his path, except for Michonne, who he wants to play with.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a horrible way to describe that.
In a bad way.
That is the way I will describe that.
Yeah.
And then on iTunes or on YouTube, we had the Dobby 86, Dave 1555, I Bleed, Cubby Blue 26, Lady Nikki, Jackin Dab 1, Duquesne. Sorry, I can't read my handwriting. Duquesne Trail. Jackhammer 23, Drelliford 69, Joe Beard, E. Bradley 127, Revanav Vinav, Money J Pro 23, and J Man commenting. Thank you guys for commenting. I Believe Cubby Blue 26 wants to know, did you get the sense that in Tyrese's group they also had a Rick versus Shane relationship between Tyrese and Alan?
For sure. Definitely last week, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really into last week's episode.
Yeah.
Shout out to the name I Bleed Cubby Blue. I'm a Cubs
I
fan.
knew that Kristin would love that, which was also the reason I wanted to
Bring
read
up
that
that one?
comment. Just for you, Kristin.
Go
That was the
Cubs.
only reason. And it was a good question. So thank you for questioning and asking us our thoughts. So let's get to some predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I think I'm all out of predictions because mine was so good. I'm going to keep talking about that because I'm just excited it actually came true. We saw Andrea with her head shaven in the season previews. So it looks like the governor has... I wasn't sure if he was really going to torture her. He was waiting for the big one, which was Michonne. But it looks like he has been or is going to be doing something to her. Negative.
Wait, was her head shaved?
Yeah, it looked shaved to
It looked
me
shaved.
I
on
didn't
the
know
chair.
if it was just back.
I didn't know if it was pulled back
It
or
was
if it was
really
shaved.
quick.
I think it was
wasn't sure.
shaven.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I believe it was shaven. And I think we're going to get a lot of deaths. I just think there's going to be a lot of hell breaks loose. I think we're going to get a lot of deaths.
I think we're going to lose Milton. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I said that last week, and I'm gonna stick with that. I think the governor will go.
Yeah.
Really?
And-
Next week?
Yeah, because it's a season finale. I think it's got to go out with one huge bang. I don't think they'll bring him back for season 4. I think they'll go in a different route.
Yeah.
You know, I think you need to stop the Woodbury thing for season 4. I don't. And the only way you can do that is to get rid of the governor. Now just the question gets to be, who gets rid of him? At this point, I'm kind of hoping it's Daryl.
Yeah.
You know, for a while there, people are like, oh, it has to be Rick to take it out. I don't think it's going to be Rick. I think it's going to be somebody else. It's either going to be Daryl or maybe even Milton before he
Glenn.
goes.
Well, I think it might be Andrea, actually, just
Maybe.
because of everything that's happening. She might finally do it somehow. But I think we're going to see, sorry, Melissa, but I think she is going to die next week because of the curse of being on our show. But I think she's going to go. I don't
think she is. I think she's going to outlive a lot of people because she's such a quiet character.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
And I think Glenn's actually going to take out the governor. That's what I think.
I just want Glenn and Maggie to both survive, but I don't know if I see that happening. But
And I think Maggie's going to get pregnant.
Can I throw out a prediction?
Mm.
I'm going to go long ball just for the sake of seeing where it can go next season. I honestly think they're going to leave the prison. We're going to see the governor and all them go to the prison to attack it. And while they're at the prison, I believe Milton's going to rescue Andrea. They're going to escape Woodbury, and the people from the prison will be exiting and meet up with them on the way out.
Ooh,
Nice.
that's
Nice.
quite a throw off.
It'd be so funny if they arrive to the prison and nobody's there.
would
That's
be
what they
awesome.
That'd be
decided.
great. That'd
Seeing
be
in the
great.
scenes him shooting a grenade at the cower, that automatically went like, I bet nobody's there when he gets there, and it's just going to piss him off, and then we're going to have Woodbury maybe verse the governor in a way. Perhaps, or, I mean, I want to see, what's-his-face kill the governor, his second in command. Martinez, yeah.
Yeah, that would be great if some crazy twist like that happened. But I think the governor's gonna die. I totally agree. I think that it's his end. I think it's the end of Woodbury
I
too.
think he's going to be around for another season. At least the beginning of next season, I feel like.
As we will find out next
We'll
week
find out.
when you guys join us next week's season finale.
Where can we find you?
Find us on. So my name's Dave Klein again, and you can find me on Twitter at the Dave Klein. That's Klein. Or go to my website, djk-online.com.
And I'm Kristen Carole. You can find me on Twitter at KristenCarole13.
And I'm Derrial Kristin. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook under the same name.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Steven?
Tune in for the season finale next week.
Oh, you can find me at Stephen Lemieux, whatever.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.